Here we go, Steelers Nation. Welcome back to another episode of SteelersFix Daily. And today, we've got a lot to unpack. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not sitting still, even just 2 weeks into the season. We've seen some new faces join the roster, some familiar storylines pop back up, and one incredibly emotional goodbye to a man who's been covering this team for more than 3 decades. So let's start with the roster moves, because these are the kind of under-the-radar changes that might not light up the ESPN ticker, but could actually matter down the road. The Steelers have signed wide receiver Isaiah Hodgins to the practice squad, and I know, when fans hear practice squad signing, sometimes the eyes glaze over. But don't fall asleep on this one. Hodgins is 6'3", 200 pounds, 26 years old. He's the kind of big-bodied wideout that this team has lacked in the depth chart since training camp. Think back to when the Steelers have been at their best. They've always had size at receiver. From Plaxico Burress in the early 2000s, to Martavis Bryant flashing in 2014, to Chase Claypool's rookie year when he was that red zone weapon. Having a guy who can go up and get it on the boundary or in the end zone changes how defenses play you. And the thing with Hodgins, he's not just a camp body. He's had legitimate flashes. Steelers fans should remember this. Back in 2022, when Buffalo stomped Pittsburgh 38-3, Hodgins actually had 4 catches for 41 yards. That was in limited action, but he showed enough that the Giants picked him up later that year. And in New York, he produced 33 catches, 351 yards, 4 touchdowns in just 8 games. That's not some fantasy stat line pulled from thin air. That's production against real NFL defenses. And even though his numbers dipped in 2023, he still played in all 17 games and added 3 more scores. So what you're looking at here is a guy who has proven he can step in, learn a system quickly, and make plays. For a Steelers receiver room that already has DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, and rookie Roman Wilson, Hodgins brings insurance and maybe, just maybe, a new wrinkle for Arthur Smith's offense. Now, let's flip over to the defense. The Steelers also brought in linebacker Jawan Bentley. And this one, honestly, I love it. Because if you've been watching the first 2 games, and I know you have, you know the run defense has been a mess. We're giving up almost 150 yards per game on the ground. That's bottom 5 in the league. And the Steelers' identity has always been stopping the run first. Right now, it hasn't been there. Bentley is the kind of old-school linebacker that Pittsburgh fans appreciate. He's a downhill tackler. He hits the gap hard, takes on blocks, and makes running backs pay. Over his career, he's put up more than 500 tackles, more than 10 sacks, and he's the type of veteran presence that can settle things down in the middle. Now granted, he's coming off a torn pec that limited him to just 2 games last year, so this isn't about bringing in a Pro Bowler to save the season. But this is about adding depth, leadership, and someone who fits the Steelers mold. And sometimes, those practice squad guys, they end up playing big snaps when injuries pile up. Just think back to James Harrison coming off the couch in 2016 to help this team push for the playoffs. You never know when that call is going to come. And while we're talking roster, it's not just additions. The Steelers made room by releasing tight end J.J. Galbraith and wide receiver Raheem Jarrett. They also placed Isaiah Loudermilk on injured reserve. That hurts because Loudermilk has been one of those steady rotational linemen. But to counter that, DeMarvin Leal is up on the active roster now, and you all know how I feel about him. A young guy with length, athleticism, and flashes of interior disruption. Giving him more snaps is exactly the kind of developmental move you want to see. So yeah, the roster is shifting, but it's shifting with purpose. Now, let's pivot from the transactions to something that hits a lot deeper. This week, Steelers Nation lost one of its true voices. Dale Lolley, longtime Steelers reporter, passed away at just 56 years old after a battle with cancer. And let me just say this. If you've been a Steelers fan for any amount of time, you've probably read a Dale Lolley article, heard his voice on the radio, or seen him at camp. He started covering the Steelers back in 1993 for the Observer reporter in Washington, Pennsylvania. Think about that. He's been there for everything from Cowher's Blitzburgh defense, to the drafting of Ben Roethlisberger, to the 2 Super Bowls under Mike Tomlin, and all the way through the ups and downs of the last decade. That's more than 30 years of stories, context, and perspective. More recently, Dale was writing for Steelers.com, contributing to DK Pittsburgh Sports, and co-hosting The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio with Matt Williamson and Wes Euler. He was more than just a beat writer. He was part of the Steelers media family. He was the guy who could ask Tomlin a tough question, then turn around and tell fans exactly what they needed to know without any fluff. And when you cover a team for that long, you become woven into the fabric of the fan base. Losing him? It's not just losing a reporter, it's losing a connection to history. Dale Lolley was one of those steady presences, and Steelers Nation is going to feel that void on Sundays. So when you put all of this together, the roster moves, the injuries, the tributes, this week has been about transition, but it's also been about resilience. The Steelers are a 1-1 football team right now. They could easily be 0-2, but they're not, and in some areas they're actually showing growth. The biggest positive? Opening drives. For the first time in what feels like forever, this team is scoring early. A touchdown in the opener, a field goal last week. That might not sound like much, but after all of 2023 went by without a single opening drive touchdown, it's like the football gods finally decided to cut us a break. And here's the kicker. The Steelers are averaging 5 points on opening drives through 2 weeks. Last year, they averaged less than 3 points in the entire first quarter. That's a huge change. Aaron Rodgers put it best when he said it's a mix of Arthur Smith's play calling and execution. The offense has come out sharp, moving the ball, getting points, and that matters. Because when the offense scores early, the defense plays freer. Instead of feeling like they have to pitch a shutout just to keep us in the game, they can play aggressive, take chances, go after the quarterback. And if the Steelers can keep that trend going, this season takes on a very different shape. But hey, we've also got to be honest. The running game is still a problem. 32nd in rushing yards per game. 32nd in yards per carry. You don't need a stat sheet to see it. Watch the games. Jaylen Warren is grinding for every yard. Kenneth Gainwell is fighting, but the holes just aren't there. Rodgers said it himself. If defenses are going to sit back in too high shells, we have to be able to run the ball. And until that gets fixed, the offense won't reach its ceiling. So it's a week of mixed feelings. Steelers Nation, we've got reinforcements coming in. We've got a legend in Dale Lolley leaving us too soon. We've got early sparks from the offense. And we've got work to do in the trenches. That's just the start. And we're going to dig into all of it today. All right, Steelers Nation, let's keep rolling. Because segment 1 was just the appetizer. Now we dig into the meat of it. Aaron Rodgers' impact, the way Arthur Smith's offense is being shaped, the ripple effect of these practice squad additions, and what it all really means in the bigger picture of Pittsburgh football. Let's start with Rodgers. Say what you will about his age, about his one-year rental status, about the fact that he's already a future Hall of Famer with nothing left to prove. The dude has changed the tone of this team. You can feel it. Even in a loss, even in a sloppy game, the way Rodgers commands the huddle is different. He brings calm, but he also brings an edge. He doesn't look rattled, and that rubs off on everyone else. Remember last year? Opening drives were basically 3-and-outs, punts, or turnovers waiting to happen. You could almost hear the groans through the TV. It set a tone that dragged down the entire sideline. Now with Rodgers, there's confidence. The line of scrimmage feels like his. And when he drops back, even if protection isn't perfect, you just get the sense something good might happen. That's what franchise quarterbacks do, and Steelers fans haven't felt that kind of presence since prime Ben Roethlisberger. Now Rodgers isn't the same type of quarterback as Ben. Ben was backyard football, breaking tackles, throwing guys off, and launching 40-yard bombs across his body. Rodgers is precision. He's footwork, timing, rhythm, and an arm that still looks ridiculously sharp for a guy in his 40s. But here's the thing. Both gave their teams belief. Both could walk into a hostile stadium, look across at a tough defense, and make their teammates feel like they had the upper hand. That's what's starting to build here in Pittsburgh. And the more Rodgers settles into Arthur Smith's playbook, the more we're going to see layers get added. Right now, you can tell they're still working through some basics, getting timing down with DK Metcalf, giving Calvin Austin more gadget touches, sprinkling in rookie Roman Wilson. But when this thing gets rolling, watch out. Because Rodgers thrives off play action, and if the Steelers can ever find their footing in the run game, suddenly this offense goes from pretty good to downright dangerous. Speaking of the run game, let's address it head on. Because Steelers fans know, the ground attack isn't anywhere close to where it needs to be. We're sitting near the bottom of the league in yards per carry, Jaylen Warren has been busting his tail, fighting for every inch. Kenneth Gainwell has been serviceable. But the holes? They're not there. And it's not just the backs. The offensive line has to do a better job getting push. This is where adding guys like Hodgins actually ties back in. You might say, what does a wide receiver on the practice squad have to do with running the ball? Here's how. If Hodgins develops into an outside presence who can win one-on-ones, that forces defenses to respect the boundary. It stretches the field horizontally. And when that happens, safeties can't cheat inside as much. Linebackers can't sell out to clog the A-gaps. The ripple effect of a legitimate outside receiver can actually soften the box. And that's when backs like Warren can finally get daylight. It's all connected. Football always is. And that's where Jaywan Bentley comes in. Because right now, the Steelers are on the other side of that problem defensively. Opposing offenses don't fear Pittsburgh's run defense the way they used to. Teams are lining up and gashing us for 4, 5, 6 yards a pop. That's demoralizing. That takes the teeth out of your pass rush. Even if you've got TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith screaming off the edge, if it's 3rd and 2 all day long, it doesn't matter. Bentley, if he gets elevated, gives the Steelers a hammer in the middle. He's not flashy. He's not running sideline to sideline like Patrick Queen. But he plugs holes. He makes backs hesitate. He shortens 2nd and 5s into 3rd and 7s. That's where turnovers happen. That's where quarterbacks make mistakes. And look, the Steelers know how important it is. Go back through history. This franchise has always been built around stopping the run. From Mean Joe Green and the Steel Curtain, to Casey Hampton clogging the middle in the 2000s, to Vince Williams thumping people just a few years back. When the Steelers stop the run, they win. Period. So bringing in Bentley, even as a practice squad stash, is a nod to that identity. Now let's step back a bit and talk about what these moves really mean for the team as a whole. Because it's easy to get lost in transactions and forget the bigger story. The Steelers are 1-1. That's not perfect. But it's not a death sentence either. Look around the league right now. The Bengals are already reeling without Joe Burrow. The Ravens struggled at times with Mark Andrews. The Browns are, well, the Browns. Every AFC North team has question marks. And the Steelers, for all the flaws, they're right there. Think about it. 2 weeks in, the Steelers have shown they can score early, they've shown they can take the ball away, and they've shown flashes of Rodgers connecting with Metcalf that look like something out of a Madden highlight reel. They've also shown weaknesses, stopping the run, protecting Rodgers consistently, and adjusting in the second half. But which of those is easier to fix? I'd argue the run defense and the blocking can be corrected faster than a team trying to replace a franchise quarterback. That's the perspective you have to keep as a fan. Yeah, the loss to Seattle was ugly, but we're still in September. Nobody's hoisting the Lombardi in September. What matters is progress. And the Steelers are making some. Now let's not sugarcoat it. The offensive line has to improve. Broderick Jones is growing into his role, but he's got to be more consistent. Isaac Sumalo has to show why he was brought in as a veteran stabilizer. Zach Frazier, the rookie, is still finding his feet. But the talent is there, and this group, with time, can gel into something respectable. If they can protect Rodgers even a tick better, the whole playbook opens up. And let's be honest, Rodgers doesn't need a fortress. He just needs time. Give him 2.5 seconds and he'll find someone. That's how good he still is. So Steelers Nation, take a breath. The sky isn't falling. In fact, there's plenty of reason for optimism, because when you add depth like Hodgins and Bentley, when you see early sparks from the offense, and when you remember the resilience that guys like Derrick Harmon are showing coming back from injury, it paints a picture of a team that's still very much alive, still very much dangerous, and still building towards something bigger. And don't forget, this franchise has been here before. Start a little slow. Hear all the outside noise. Then put together a run. The standard is the standard, as Tomlin always says. And this group looks like one that's going to keep fighting until it clicks. We'll dive into the defense, the injury updates, and of course more on Dale Lolley's incredible career in segment 3. But for now, remember this. 2 weeks in, the Steelers are far from a finished product. And that's okay, because growth in September is exactly what you want. All right, Steelers Nation, let's bring this one home with Block 3. We've talked roster moves. We've talked Rodgers and the offense. Now let's look at the defense, the injury situation, and finish by remembering a man who gave his life's work to covering this team, Dale Lolley. Defensively, let's just say it out loud. The unit hasn't been up to the Steelers' standard. We've seen breakdowns against the run, we've seen guys wearing down late in games, and we've seen moments where the pass rush just hasn't been able to take over. Now some of that is health. Alex Highsmith leaving early in the Seahawks game with that high ankle issue was massive. You could feel the difference immediately. When it's just TJ Watt on one side and no complementary pressure, offenses can adjust. They chip him, they slide protection his way, and suddenly he's seeing 2, even 3 bodies in his lane. That's why depth on the edge is critical. The secondary also needs to tighten up. Joey Porter Jr. didn't practice this week, Deshaun Elliott didn't practice, and those are 2 names you don't want to be without. Porter is already becoming that shutdown guy. Elliott, when healthy, gives you a physical presence at safety that complements Juan Thornhill and Jabril Peppers. If they're banged up, that puts a lot of pressure on Brandon Echols and James Pierre to step up. It's doable, but it's not ideal. Here's the good news, though. Patrick Queen is balling. He's flying around, making plays sideline to sideline, and showing why the Steelers went out and got him. You can already see how different this linebacker group looks with him at the center of it. And once Cole Holcomb and Peyton Wilson fully settle in, plus a little seasoning for Sawyer and Nick Herbig, that middle of the field has the potential to be nasty. Now let's circle back to Derrick Harmon. We touched on him earlier, but this is where his story really matters. Draft night should have been the happiest day of his life. Instead, his mother passed away that same night. And now, his NFL debut has been delayed by injury. But the way this kid has handled it? Man, that's Steelers DNA right there. He said himself, he feels battle-tested emotionally. He's ready. And when he gets out there, he's not just playing football. He's playing for his mom, for his family, for everyone who supported him through the hardest months of his life. Tell me that doesn't make you want to root for him. Tell me that doesn't sound like a guy you want wearing the black and gold. And that's what makes being a Steelers fan different. We don't just care about stats. We don't just care about wins. We care about the stories. We care about the guys who put that helmet on and represent Pittsburgh. Harmon's story is just beginning, and it already feels like one that's going to stick with us. Now, the injuries. Joey Porter Jr., Deshaun Elliott, Alex Highsmith didn't practice. Derrick Harmon and Max Sharping were limited. TJ Watt and Darius Slay got veteran days off. Patrick Queen was full go. That's the landscape right now. Some of those guys will be ready by Sunday. Some might not. But here's the reality. The Steelers are built for adversity. This is the NFL. Nobody's healthy after week 1. The question is, who steps up when their number is called? That's why adding Hodgins and Bentley matters. That's why promoting Leal matters. You win in December and January because of what you do with your depth in September. And finally, Steelers Nation, we've got to talk about Dale Lolley. Because you can't close out this week without honoring him. For 30-plus years, Dale was there. Rain, snow, heat, cold, didn't matter. He was on the beat. He was in Latrobe every summer. He was at Heinz Field, then Acrisure Stadium every fall, and he was on the road in Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, New England, all the battlegrounds. He saw it all. He covered Cowher, he covered Tomlin, he covered Ben's rise, the Super Bowl parade in 2005, the unforgettable run in 2008, the heartbreak in 2010, and every twist since. And through it all, he kept fans informed. He wasn't about clickbait. He wasn't about hot takes. He was about telling the truth, giving context, and helping us understand what was really going on with our team. On Steelers Nation Radio, co-hosting The Drive, he brought that same steady voice. He had that blend of experience and humor, and he connected generations of fans. Younger fans who only knew him from the website, older fans who read him in the Observer Reporter. Everybody trusted Dale. And now he's gone at just 56 years old. Too young. Way too young. And the hole that leaves in the Steelers community is massive. But here's the thing. His legacy isn't gone. Every article he wrote, every broadcast he did, every story he told, they live on. They're part of the history of this team. And that's what we carry forward. So as we wrap this up, remember where the Steelers are right now. 1-1. Flawed, yes, but showing signs of life. They're scoring early. Rodgers is settling in. The run game is struggling, but fixable. The defense is banged up, but reinforcements are coming. The practice squad moves aren't glamorous, but they're smart. Hodgins, Bentley, Leal, they could all play roles before this is over. And at the same time, we as fans take a moment to honor Dale Lolley. Because without people like him, we don't just lose news updates. We lose part of what connects us all as Steelers Nation. This season is just beginning. There will be highs, there will be lows, but through it all, the standard is the standard, and we'll keep showing up week after week, just like Dale did. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Steelers Fix Daily. Make sure you follow us on all platforms. Check out the full article on SteelersFix.com. Hit like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Until next time, this is Steelers Fix signing off. Here we go.